Okay. So here's what I did yesterday. My 2 pages of the superimposed lines. So there's a lot of ugliness. And I also read the entire lesson 0 and the intro bit for lesson 1 for the superimposed lines and stuff. So that was very long and took like an hour and a half. So we're going to do the next part of the homework, which is the ghosted lines, which we will start after I read it. So let me make sure that was a but. So we're supposed to do 1 page of ghosted lines. Superimposed. Here's ghosted. So we're going to read through this. We'll do 1 page of that, and then if I don't feel terrible, we'll do, what's the next part? Ghosted planes. Yeah. Which I think is 2 pages. Alright. So I'm going to read this entire thing, and then we'll do the exercise. So, Lesson 1, lines, ellipses, and boxes, ghosted lines. Ghosting lines is a technique I first learned from Scott Robertson, specifically from this DVD from years ago. I don't know, you can click on that later. And it's really become, at least on a conceptual level, the backbone of how I want my students to think. As you should be familiar with the concept of executing your marks with confidence, the ghosting method helps us to break the mark-making process into a series of steps that allow us to draw with that same confidence while also improving the accuracy of our results. It also forces us to think and consider our intentions before each and every mark we put down. I love how these 2 dots are an entire image on their own. Alright, planning. The technique starts with laying out the terms of the line you want to draw. In this example, we are going to focus on drawing a straight line, but this technique can and should be used for every single mark you put down. For this straight line, we're going to establish where we want it to start and where we want it to end, and we'll mark these points on the page itself. Don't draw these points too heavily. Ideally, the resulting line should swallow both of them up. Next, we want to find the most comfortable angle of approach for the line you've planned out, so feel free to rotate the page as needed. Personally, being right-handed, I find that the most comfortable angle for me is drawing from left to right and away from my body at a roughly 45-degree angle. Every time I forget my deodorant, I'm pretty sure Urshad notices and just tries not to say anything. And then I realize I forget my deodorant and loudly exclaim it to him. Alright, back to reading. I do get a lot of students who fight against this and insist on trying to draw lines at any angle. It's admirable, but it very much gets in the way of things. To be blunt, that's not where we're going to be spending our energy. We're going to focus instead on really nailing one line drawn from the shoulder from one angle of approach. We're going to focus on making it confident, smooth, and accurate. Just like your mom. The thing is, the actual range of lines you can draw comfortably will expand naturally as you continue to practice, simply because as human beings, we are lazy creatures. That laziness means rotating the page is kind of annoying, and so if the line we want to draw is only off from our range of comfort by a bit, we'll probably just go for it anyway, and if we're not forcing ourselves, blah. And so bit by bit, that range expands. That's not permission to be lazy, mind you. I expect you to rotate that page for each and every line to apply every step of the ghosting method from here on in, so long as you're doing work for the Drawabox lessons. Outside of that, however, is no longer my jurisdiction, and you're free to do whatever you like. It's like international waters. Alright, ghosting. Both rotating the page and ghosting over the line makes up the preparation phase of the 3-step process. Ghosting basically means going through the motion of drawing your line over and over without actually touching the page. You engage your shoulder muscles just as you would if you were actually drawing the mark, and in doing so, you gradually build up muscle memory. I like to think of it as though this is the point where your brain is giving your arm its marching orders. The brain has done its reconnaissance, it has decided what needs doing, and now it's giving the arm explicit instructions. This is the last step that is going to involve the brain in any fashion. Don't rush through this step. It may take some time to develop a comfortable awareness of the motion you're repeating. I've been drinking water. Why do I feel like I have to burp? Note, while ghosting, do so only in one direction. Don't go back and forth. Oh, there's a little arrow in case you're dumb and don't know what one direction looks like. Someone who's left-handed needs to show us how they do their ghosting lines. It might be interesting. Alright. Execution. Once you feel comfortable with the motion without missing a beat or breaking the rhythm of repetition, lower your pen to the page and go through the motion one more time. Just once. Don't make more than a single mark, as you don't want to get into the habit of automatically reinforcing your strokes by reflex. In all likelihood, your first few attempts won't go well, as you continue to get accustomed to the technique and ultimately find a rhythm and pace that fits. That's entirely normal. We're all normal here. Everybody's normal. You're normal. I'm normal. Abby's normal. Everything's being recorded, so it's going to go up on YouTube, and I think Twitch will hold it for a while. So if you missed something, you can just watch it again later and hear my terrible jokes. I'm going through and reading everything aloud again because I skipped all of it the first few times I did this, or just didn't absorb it. So, and somebody told me that they wanted me to read it out loud. I think it was Sluggy. We're just reinforcing the information. Just read along with me. It's like reading Rainbow, except I'm not LeBron Burton. Whatever his name is. Jordy. Alright. Also worth thinking about is the fact that there are several levels of success with this exercise. Level 1, line is smooth and consistent without any visible wobbling, but doesn't quite pass through A or B due to not following the right trajectory. It's a straight shot, but misses the mark a bit. Level 2, line is straight, smooth, and consistent without any wobbling and maintains the correct trajectory. It does, however, either fall short or overshoot one or both of the points. Level 3, line is straight, smooth, consistent, without any wobbling. It also starts right at one point and ends exactly at the other. Take it one level at a time. Don't worry too much about the goals for level 3 if you're not yet nailing level 1. The purpose of this exercise. This exercise is intended to introduce you to a technique that you will be using on every single mark you make through all of the Drawabox lessons and hopefully beyond. The goal is to, over time, develop a habit of thinking before you draw, to consider what purpose the mark you are about to make serves and whether or not it is the best mark for that purpose, or if another existing one is already accomplishing the same task. And of course, to ensure that you are as prepared as you need to be to make that mark, rather than rushing in half-cocked. Mistake, wobbly lines. If your lines wobble like this one, or show any kind of wavering, then there are two main possibilities as to what is happening. You're hesitating as you execute the line rather than drawing with a confident motion. Finally, committing to a mark can definitely be quite daunting, but it's integral that you get used to accepting that mistakes do happen. Things go wrong. You can prepare as much as possible, and you should, but the moment your pen touches the page, any opportunity to avoid a mistake has already passed. Now you must commit yourself, push through with confidence, and execute your line. It's also worth remembering we can still work with a line that is smooth and even, but there's not much that can be done with a wobbly one. You are drawing with your wrist rather than your shoulder and have to reposition yourself as you draw due to a limited range of motion. These lines should absolutely be drawn from the shoulder because they rely heavily on achieving a smooth, consistent flow. It could very well be both, so take a step back and analyze your approach before settling back in and trying again. You can always stop and do your shoulder exercises if you're mucking it up a lot. It doesn't take too long, and if you get distracted, you can forget what your arm's supposed to be doing and go back on the old habits and reflexes. Alright, so another mistake. Arching lines. Arcing lines? Arcing lines. Lines that are building arches. While this can be related to not drawing from the shoulder and the smaller arc of motion forcing you into an arcing line, some people will find that they have a natural tendency to arc their lines slightly when attempting to draw one that is straight. One approach I've heard to correct this is to consciously arc your line slightly in the opposite direction. The expected result is that the conscious adjustment will compensate for the issue and will result in a straight line that does not arc in either direction. Over time and practice, your brain will associate this motion with a straight line, and eventually you won't have to be quite so conscious of it. Example homework. Basically, you just need to fill a page with straight lines using the ghosting method. How you do this is up to you. As shown below, I filled the page with points and then drawn lines between them. Don't worry about letting them overlap or things getting cluttered. It's all perfectly fine. What's important is that you're putting the time into the ghosting method for each and every line you produce. And then here we go. Some comfy homework. Look at that. And you know he did it, because if he had someone else do it, he would have had to pay them for it. So, it looks like that's it for that one. So we need one page of this. One page of something like this. So, let's go over here and have this warm up a little bit. There we go. I what? I zombie. So, I got my Drawabox pen from yesterday. And it's still, I had to redraw the date stamp, so I'm going to try and just keep it facing up. That way I don't smudge it with my hand. On half of A3. Oops. I knocked my cable out. There it goes. Well, you don't have to do it with me if you don't want to, but doing another one won't hurt either. That's the funny thing about Drawabox, is you're just repeating yourself over and over and over again. To make sure this is the same amount of paper. What did it say in what we read yesterday? That this is like part of your warm-ups from now on? So follow along with me. Okay, just trying to make a bigger platform for myself, because that's how I like to do it. So I just fill the whole page. Yeah, and I'm going to stretch my hand a little bit. Okay, so well, let's get started. What do we want to do? Like just make a bunch of dots? Can we do that? Can we just make a bunch of dots? Well, why don't you have any 8.5 by 11 paper? Just gonna make dots, and we'll just pick. Not that one. Does nobody like it when I read aloud? Is that dull? Alright, so from the shoulder. Bachelorette with her. Well, if you don't have printer paper, go to your parents' house, find their printer, and steal theirs. Alright, so we'll do these little dots right up here real quick first. So, I'm gonna hold it, then doot, 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 doot. That's what I did, and I missed. No, steal the paper tray. It's the whole tray of paper. Leave them with a printer with a giant empty cavity on it. I'm gonna turn this again. So I'm gonna go for these. Let me bring it closer. I'm gonna stop short on that one. Almost did that one, right? Just a tiny bit off. Maybe if I didn't do a longer one. Is this a cross? Now it's an X. It looks more like an X. Let's try making a little one. So they're straight, but they're not hitting their marks really. So let's see what can be done. Okay. Oh, I did that one almost perfectly. That's good. Let's try again. And I might not do it again for the whole stream. It's all downhill from here. Alright, here we go. Move it closer to me. wants to fly away. I kind of want to do more of these. Yeah, I keep having to move the paper around underneath to make sure it doesn't have a bump, or just move this where it won't be a bump, which it hasn't happened so far. That was me using my elbow the first time. This is my elbow. This is my shoulder, more or less. Poop. So I keep turning the paper because I'm just going to do whatever is most comfortable, not necessarily what is going to look best here. And also, that's what you're supposed to do. So, because if I put it at too weird of an angle, I start using my elbow instead of my shoulder. I was just reminding you you're supposed to do that. Okay, let's do some more. So what I did here is I didn't actually put it all the way on the paper before I started making the line. If I had done that, it would have looked good. But let's keep going. That's pretty good. I have I had a message. Okay. Let's go again. Actually, really don't need that. That mark's kind of stupid, so I'll just put one next to it. You're getting so close. I was gonna say something, I can't remember what. Oh yeah, it's weird how if you have a camera pointing down on your arm, it's way more obvious when you're using your elbow versus your shoulder. There's way less like changing of the angle, I guess. I thought that was interesting. Okay, let's make more lines. Oh, I did it. It's a little wobbly, but at least I can make the points that time. That makes me feel better. that does not. Make some short ones. I'm gonna do like a longer one and just keep going until I'm either tired of it or I feel like I've gotten the hang of it. think I did enough of these. So, a lot of times when I would get a really straight line, I would stop too early. And other times I'd get a really straight line, but I'd be really far off. And some of these have a little bit of arcing, but not a lot. There tends to be more when I get close to the end and sort of forget what I was supposed to be doing. Or if I overshoot, my brain starts interrupting me and then I'm trying to fix it even though it's already no good. So there's really no point in trying to do that. This one has the most arch where I was trying to correct back to the dot, which worked, but isn't actually right. So, alright, let's put this aside.